Isaiah Thomas being one of them who was also interviewed that was just like, hey, like, yeah, Mike was good, but he couldn't beat me. and even Reggie Miller coming out and going, hey, like, people were afraid of Mike, not me. And that Gary Payton did the same thing. And in the aftermath of it, you see these other NBA players with all the adulation. And now what I think people are getting from that is Michael Jordan really was Black Jesus. And I'm like, hey, that's still going a little too far for me.
I'm a agree and disagree at the same time.
Okay.
And I would agree with some of those players' approaches while they were playing the game. But, Reggie calls him Black Jesus. They give him the respect. Isaiah's called him the greatest player of all time. Right. So they still give the respect. Now,
Absolutely.
Karl Malone is the mailman. He's the mailman. So to that degree, when you're competitive, if I was playing against MJ, I wouldn't give it to him because I have that ego. Like, I wanted to be the best. So I agree in that standpoint, but at the same time, they still consider him that. Now, to the Black Jesus point and the glorification, I don't look at it when I attribute it to it, and this is where I'm different from, because like we spoke about in the production meeting, I don't argue it from a standpoint of gameplay. How he played the game, but I look at it from the standpoint of how he revolutionized basketball and brought it to the world stage. Not saying the only one that did that, because I think the spark was brought back, like you have mentioned, and we talked about.
He was undoubtedly the catalyst. He was undoubtedly the catalyst, for sure.
I think Wilt and evolutionize the game for a big man, athletic like that, running the game. Kareem, a scoring big man. Bill Russell, the way he defended was just amazing, and winning, and that like they built the game, the foundation. I think Magic and Bird came in with a new era to say, hey, we're just as good as the NFL. We're just as good as Major League Baseball, and brought it back to the forefront.
Yeah.
And as one of America's games. But Michael Jordan took it and evolutionized it to the world stage, to where he was in every country and everybody wanted to play basketball. And I think with Michael Jordan, that's where the rise of all these basketball camps.
But let me stop you there for a second, because this is.
But I'm gonna pass it back. But you see these camps, you see the rise of AAU because of Michael Jordan. Everybody wanted to be like Mike, regardless, because I know where you're gonna go with this. Regardless of how, because it's almost in the argument I think you're penalizing people for doing what they're supposed to do. But I'm gonna say, regardless of that fact, he had to back it up with what he did on the floor, and I think. You look at where the game of basketball is today from where it was before Mike came into the league, you have to say it is something that we haven't seen. And I don't think it can be evolutionized unless they start shooting 50-foot 3-pointers and we get guys that can just shoot half court at 40-50% or something. You know what I'm saying?
We about there with Steph Curry. But let me go back to what you were talking about specifically, and that is what revolutionized the game of basketball. And again, I keep using the key word catalyst. While Michael Jordan was the catalyst, that was Nike, Gatorade, and David Stern that was able to take that, help him turn it into a brand and globalize it. We have a tendency, because of Michael Jordan's basketball greatness, to attribute the things that had nothing to do with basketball and great and on-court play to him. And that's not true. David Stern, during the time, was able to see what was coming because, again, rules changed in the league because of Michael Jordan. Because by the time they beat the Pistons, when they swept the Pistons out of that series the next year, they had started changing the rules, and they started turning some of those fouls into technicals. And that's what this documentary also showed. So with the last 30 seconds, I'm going to say this. We have a tendency to take that. Michael Jordan, I believe, maybe wins one championship if you don't have Tex Winters and Phil Jackson. That's number one. He doesn't have that ability to even have this conversation. Not it been for them. Because, and I'm not saying that they made him a better player. They made him a better teammate. And I think Michael Jordan sorely gets misused throughout the course of his career because of exactly how good he was. And you know, I err on the side of Michael Jordan was going to be the greatest player of all times. No matter what happened, if he left with one, I would have still argued he was the greatest player of all times forever. He really only needed the one to solidify that for me. He didn't need the 6. So I throw the 6-0 argument completely out of the conversation because there was nobody better than him, and it was clear. But he was being sorely misused. Hold on a second, because we'll pick this up on the other side. And then the other side of this is if David Stern hadn't been able to globalize the NBA and put those efforts forward like he could and use Michael Jordan as a catalyst to do that effectively, then it's not as global as it is now. It wasn't like people were looking at it. David Stern globalized it right at the beginning of the Bulls' run in the first three-peat. They decided, hey, look, let's take the NBA on the road, and they started USA Basketball. That wasn't a Michael Jordan idea. That was a David Stern idea. But we'll be right back after this. We'll pick this up on the other side, Free, because I want you to respond, and then we'll move on to the NBA and how it can move back safely. But don't touch that dial, because our names are not important, but we still macking Free. And we'll be right back.
Microphone checker, microphone checker, microphone checker, microphone checker, microphone checker, microphone checker. Riggedy row, give me the gadzooks, here I go, so
Riggedy row. That's right. We go and Ben has been. I wanted that song to play because I know the energy for his response is going to be Daz Effect like. So Free, I know you wanted to respond to what I was talking about, man. So go ahead, give the people what they want.
But not really a response, but I just want to say I still think the point that's missed is that number one is, which are all valid points, like I don't think to determine one's greatness, we have to say they were great because they won championships. But when you make the statement he was going to be the greatest of all time, whether he had one, then that further implicates his greatness when you talk about he was able to win 6. Now, granted, in the sport, yes, I get it. We shouldn't. I think coaches get too much of the blame and not enough of the glory. I think so.
Absolutely.
But I think Michael Jordan say it was Phil who taught him he didn't need to have the ball 35% of the game. So he gives that credit, but I think it was still you still know who your bread and butter is. And I think the question is, we know Mike may not have won 6 without Scottie and them, but the question is, would the Bulls won any without Mike?
Oh, yeah.
I
think that answer is no. I think that answer is no.
But and then lastly, and then I'm gonna pass it back. And then lastly, when you talk about David Stern, yes, they capitalized on it and did it, but we still have to remember it was the right time to do it. Now, granted, let me say this: Stern had the mind to do it. Like he was moving in that direction. So I think it would have made it regardless. So I want to be clear. Like you said, the stars did align, but Mike was already becoming the face of the league. So it was kind of like, oh, I've got to do it more so than when we do it. So I just think, granted, we still have to give credit to Mike's persona and what he did to back it up with just being an ambassador of greatness on the floor to I guess further advance the process. And I'm gonna pass it back.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's again for me. I'm only looking at it from the standpoint of give credit where credit is due. And I think what should have been taken from this series is really when it comes to Michael Jordan and my arguments about the over exaggerated legend of Michael Jordan is there are other people who don't get credit for his success in terms of winning that should get credit. Jerry Krause, Phil Jackson, Tex Winters, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukoc. I mean, goodness gracious, like that. How much more talent do you want on one team? He was on a team with Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, and Tony Kukoc. And Ron Harper, who was a watered-down Ron Harper at the time, but still much better than a lot of point guards in the league at that time. Like, how much more talent do you want in the 90s? He had a lot of help. And then in terms of growing his brand, it was his parents that talked him into taking the chance with Nike. It was him that helped propel Nike. So let's not forget that fact. I don't want to overshadow that at all. He helped propel Nike to the point to where LeBron James can sell $200 shoes also. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from that part of it. But also, it wasn't him reaching out globally to help build the NBA's brand. That was still David Stern and that team, and they should get a lot of credit for that, just as much as Phil Jackson and Tex Winters should be able to get a lot of credit for implementing the system that complemented his skills, just as much as Scottie Pippen being his teammate to take a lot of the stuff off of his shoulders that needed to be shouldered. It would be like, and again, we talk about this and we bring this up. This is the only championship that I have to use in my arsenal, people, so bear with me. For the middle school team that I coached, I would be remiss if I did not mention that my assistant coach gave a halftime speech at halftime in the second round that helped catapult our team to getting to the finals, and that's it, in the playoffs, in order for us to even be in a position to win. And it's like, I can't not give him credit for that. Just as much as I can't give all credit to the players because I didn't dribble a single ball or shoot a single shot to make it happen. I just tried to make the game easier for them. And it would be, I can't come into this and go, hey man, I'm one of the best. Like, I can't say when there's so many people as a team surrounding me. But my wife gets a lot of credit for being able to take a lot of the home stress off of me to be even in a position to do what I was able to do. The people at work, the company that I work for and make a living for, they are attributed to the championship because they allowed me to come into work early and leave work earlier just so I could go and coach this team. So there are a lot of people who were able to put us as a team in that position to win, and I'm just not one for overshadowing. It would be like me saying my name's the first name after names are not important, with Mac and Free, and saying that Free has nothing to do with how well this show does. Like, that's not true at all. So we have to be able to give the teams the proper credit as we do. And speaking of teams, the NBA is coming out of quarantine and going into a little more stricter quarantine where the league is about to start. Players are going into their respective workouts to their respective cities. And then the last I heard, they're breaking the cities up and they are going to either be, the Eastern Conference is going to be playing all their games in Orlando, and the Western Conference are going to be playing all their games in Las Vegas. They're going to be under strict quarantine rules, but we don't know exactly what those rules are. And we've got states currently, and this is the reason why I wanted to bring this up, because we currently have a number of states who are lifting their stay-at-home orders, and they're becoming a lot more relaxed. With that being said, Florida being one of them, Florida was one of the first ones on the list, as a matter of fact. Are NBA players safe? And is it safe for the NBA to start bringing these players back